effect on this Tuesday morning. I did a movie review for Mr. Harrigan's phone. If you haven't seen it, it's up now on the channel. I thought it was pretty interesting, although I kind of fell asleep. Cinematography was great. The chemistry between the characters, Donald Sutherland and the dude from Black Phone. It's interesting. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a pretty decent film.
The words were too random to make sense of. What matters is that Craig wanted to stop, and he wanted someone to tell him so. Above all, he wanted Mr. Harrigan to tell him so, and that's why he interprets the message as a sign from him to stop, once and for all.
Cinematography was decent.
Mr. Harrigan chose Craig for what reason? Before he met Mr. Harrigan, Craig's life
Dialogue was pretty interesting.
and very unremarkable. He read books to the elderly man 3 days a week for 5 years. After his death, he experienced some extremely unsettling events that caused him to reflect on his true identity. Craig has had a persistent thought during this whole ordeal.
Flashbacks to when Craig was a child.
Exactly.
That was interesting.
The reclusive billionaire had a reputation for being cold to visitors. He was a reclusive man who lived alone. He could have chosen any kid to read to him when he needed someone to do so. Craig admits that there were better readers than him, which means that his reading skills were not the real reason behind Mr. Harrigan's decision to hire him. In the end, Craig discovers that he was right. There was a secret closet in the hall where Craig and Mr. Harrigan would sit down for their sessions. Craig tried to find out what was in the closet, and Mr. Harrigan told him there were secrets in it. Craig doesn't get a chance to open the closet until after Mr. Harrigan.
I like the aspect of him like reading stories
from
from
were the memories of his past. Craig finds the photos
and
of Mr.
secrets
Harrigan's
that he
childhood
tries
with
to
his
hold
parents.
on
He
to.
discovers that his mother had died when he was very young. When Mr. Harrigan found out that Craig was also suffering similar grief, he could relate to the boy's situation. He knew what it was like and how lonely it could feel for someone to lose a parent at
Very
such a young
interesting.
age. He knew that Craig
They
needed a
shared that
reason to get out
bond.
of the house and do
That's what
something
made
that
them
would take his
special.
mind off of things. He needed
The
someone
fact
to
that they
help
could
him through
vent
his grief.
and
as
could relate
his father was,
and could
Craig
help
would
each other
probably not talk to
through their
him about his
grief.
feelings. Craig needed a
Yeah, he
friend,
didn't
and
let his
that's why Mr.
father
Harrigan
in,
chose
so
him.
that's why he
The
chose
old man
Mr.
was also at a point
Harrigan,
in
because
his
he
life
could
where he
relate.
started to feel lonely.
So you
Because he
can kind of
always
relate
kept
to
people
that
at bay. He never got too close
if
to
you've went
anyone.
and
He didn't have
experienced
any friends
those
who
type of
cared for him,
situations.
something that becomes evident at his funeral.
He gets bullied
So,
throughout the
it wasn't
movie,
just to help Craig, but
which
also for himself, that Mr.
who hasn't
Harrigan
been?
offered him the job of visiting him 3 times a week to read books to him.
Bully
Craig
did a
needs his
good
father,
job.
but does he
He ends
also
up meeting
discard
his
him?
fate by the end, though. I won't spoil what exactly happened, but yeah. That happens.
Developing analytics frameworks and turning data into solutions for better business decisions. Leverage the power of technology with IEI Consulting. On the surface, Mr. Harrigan's phone appears to be the tale of a youngster who is tormented by an elderly man. A closer examination reveals that the story is essentially about a person's decision, though power can be tough. It can be utilized to make the world a better place, but it can also cause destruction. Additionally, it can be challenging to predict a certain person's behavior. Once they
Ultimately,
possess
it's about
unfathomable
making
power.
decisions and
His
choices
entire life, Mr. Harrigan had the power to change people's lives.
and whatnot.
While he was good to those who were good to him, he was cruel and unforgiving to those who would cross him. This was how he used his power, and this is what defined his character. After his death, Craig chances upon the power to do what
That's why
he
you don't
promised
cross
Mr.
folks.
Harrigan. He said that he would
But
dispatch his enemies. At the time, Craig didn't fully grasp
yeah,
his idea of dispatching people. He takes it to mean fighting back, which is what he does when
basically,
Kenny attacks him.
he
However,
would kill his
no
enemies
matter how much he hated Kenny, he didn't want him to die.
and
Once
knows
he realizes that he might be the reason behind
who
his
did
classmates'
Mr.
death,
Hannigan
he
wrong.
is so terrified that he
Harrigan.
stashes away the phone. But then, his favorite teacher, Ms. Hart, dies and her killer walks away scot-free. This angers Craig so much that he intentionally sets
Damn,
Mr.
the
Harrigan
teacher
up.
passed.
Even now, he is not sure that it would work, but when he discovers exactly how Dean Whitmore died, he knows that this is, without a doubt, his fault. Craig's own ideas are unsettling him. It doesn't take him long to recognize that turning to the dark side is what he is doing, because desiring justice and wishing someone killed are two very different things. He is also troubled by how he has tarnished Mr. Harrigan's memory as a result of his own deeds. He respected the elderly guy, but by
She was there for him when he was bullied
he
and
transformed him into an evil force. He never
comfort
desired
him
this for either Mr. Harrigan or
when he
himself.
was bullied.
He finally decides to throw away the phone he had been using to speak with Mr. Harrigan. He considers getting rid of his new phone as well, but since Mr. Harrigan cannot be reached through it, it is not as risky.
It's an interesting film, though, to say the least. Actors did good, so I
Search. Film.
really shit on the acting.
Vince McMahon.
Their acting wasn't really bad. And the characters and the relationship between Mr. Harrigan and
If you've been paying attention to the last few weeks of Raw in particular, you'd have noticed some interesting
the
things.
boy,
Gunther versus Tommaso Ciampa in the main event.
chemistry
Tag
was
titles being more important than ever in recent history. Tegan Knox being
on
back
point.
on our screens. Johnny Gargano returning to reunite DIY. These don't seem like Vince McMahon's
In my opinion.
do they? Well, there may be a reason for that. PW Insider originally reported that the word going around backstage in WWE was that Vince McMahon was no longer involved creatively in the company. The reported belief among wrestlers was that Endeavor had knighted Triple H to run creative, and he'll be responsible for 99.9% of it going forward. Worth noting that this was not confirmed, but is what the wrestlers believe to be true.
So the teacher dies, Mr. Harrigan passed, the bully passed. Everybody who had to meet their fate basically met their fate. He dodges the phone because he doesn't no longer get any contact with them. So yeah, that's pretty smart to dash the phones, knowing you can no longer contact and talk to somebody when he's deceased. So that makes logical sense, retrospect. Smart kid beyond his years. It sucks that the teacher died though, because she seemed like one of them teachers he could really go to and confide in and talk to and whatnot. Man, that's sad. Very, 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 very sad aspect.
Play.
John Ross Sapp had some interesting speculation on the Fightful post-war show where he took a guess at what he thought.
The chemistry seemed pretty good too, though, between him and the teacher as well.
He was bulletproof, but was forced to, so he retired. He then found the one deal, the merger, that would allow him to come back. But everybody else around him knows that WWE is better off creatively and financially.
Very, 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 very much. Highly recommend you watch this movie again. I mean, yeah, you haven't seen it, at least watch it. I'd actually go back to examine this and watch it again in the future. Can't lie to you.
Which means now, with Vince's lack of overall voting power, this could genuinely
It's way better than like Desperation.
But much like the wrestlers mentioned in Fightful's report, I'll believe it when I see it.
Or something on a lower scale of filmmaking or something like that.
It's Tempest's birthday. It's Tony Khan's birthday. It's NXT and it's Dynamite.
I highly recommend this over freaking what? I'll put this over fucking
in the ratings war. It's insane, and I love it. NXT will feature John Cena, Paul Heyman,
I'll put this
Asuka,
over.
Cody Rhodes making an announcement, and a teased appearance from The Undertaker, which is already bonkers itself. But just to
Halloween
add
5,
insult to injury,
an awful
it was then
film.
announced that the first 30 minutes of NXT tonight will also be commercial free. I'm sure
It's
Tony
based
Khan
off some of the
recently-
acting
Oh, no, wait, he went on a tirade.
and certain
Tony Khan
characters.
responded in kind by announcing that AEW
Desperation,
Dynamite's first 30 minutes are also
Halloween
going to
5.
be
Wow, my
commercial
brain was
free.
on a
WWE can do, TK
damn.
also do. But it didn't end there, because TK then announced a 30-minute
My brain was on a
show
brain fart. I couldn't think of another terrible tier type of film to put on that list with Desperation. Wow. But yeah, I'll put Halloween 5 up there, neck and neck with Desperation. What else on films I wouldn't go back to watch? Something else I wouldn't go back to watch, honestly, is
and when others complained about him tweeting it, saying that if Vince did something like this, AEW fans
that's just a
would be
dull
furious.
film
TK responded to them saying,
compared to
"If
this
Vince
one.
McMahon said
This had story,
the least of his
intrigue,
amazing
mystery,
At this point,
suspense,
I'm convinced Tony Schiavone is gonna
characters.
start spoiling the main event of NXT when Dynamite starts tonight. Now, have fun tonight, everybody.
and I'm
enjoy
familiar with the
wrestling.
dude from
Now, over to Luke for the
Black Phone. Keen
At
act
1 of 2:16 seconds.
I recognize from the Black Phone, Thunder Sutherland, other horror films and whatnot. But yeah, overall, I thought Mr. Hurricane's Phone was a great movie. You know a movie's good when you fall asleep halfway through it. But psychologically, internally, I still knew everything was going on. There's a good thing about that, you can go back and watch videos, pick it up like that, like the explanation, which I just seen and I caught on quick. But yeah, it wasn't a bad movie. There's been worse, you know.
Oh, I don't have time to listen to music. I have wrestling to watch. But don't you do stuff outside of this, right? Like, you have downtime.
I'd definitely go back. Oh, that Bones, Bag of Bones series. Other people might not. It's not the greatest Stephen King adaptation or story, but I think I quite somewhat enjoyed it for what it was. From my perspective, the story about what happened to that female, her daughter, and some other stories. I thought the look on that and touch on that was executed pretty interesting from a viewer's perspective. And I thought Piers Bronson did a great job of selling the loss of his wife and, you know, grieving the loss of his wife and stuff like that. I thought it was interesting. From my perspective, it's in the eye of the beholder. Sure, like I said, it might not be a phenomenal, a great, an excellent series, mini TV series, but I thought the story was intriguing. I found it a little interesting. Time waster. Something to get me through, you know, basically. But not everybody has that same outlook, so not everybody's going to feel that same way, which is understandable. Everybody doesn't have the same philosophy in life and on things, so, you know, we can't really knock people in that regard. But there's another terrible horror film. I named a few: Halloween 5, Desperation, The Blob's good, so I ain't gonna even trash that. That's good. The remake and the original. Fucking what else? I'm trying to think what else is a horrible horror film.
Drew responded, sensibly so,
I'm
that he's
thinking.
only getting involved in other people's business when it's also his business. This is a great character beat for Drew, and one that I particularly enjoyed. Damien Priest held up J.D. McDonough, which looked like that one meme for a bit, and asked him to take out Drew McIntyre later. Spoilers for later in this review, that did not go well for J.D. They also announced that Judgment Day will be a rematch against Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso for the tag titles next week. Speaking of things that I enjoyed, Kofi Kingston took an eyebrow of the Viking Raiders in a Viking Rules match, but not before WWE successfully trolled me into thinking my broadcast had gone wrong when Michael Cole and Wade Barrett were dubbed in French. It was actually just a short promotional piece for Paris 2024. It genuinely made me think something had gone wrong. Well played, WWE. Well played. This match wasn't as good as their out of
The Dark Tower. Another film I want to go back to watch. Shorter with story. In the end, it's about destroying the Dark Tower and all that. But it's not something I can say I'd go back and watch. Like a Child's Play, like a Nightmare on Elm Street. Sometimes they come back. Stuff like that. Classics. Stuff that draws you in. Stuff that gets you captivated. Stuff you have to go back and watch. You know? Things on that higher tier, but, you know. Those films, they don't give you a reason to go back and watch. You're bored the second they're on. There's nothing to grasp. There's nothing to hook you.
At 1 up to 35 seconds.
Yeah.
My family's been in the business for almost 100 years, being out here on the land.
But Mr. Harrigan's phone, the story, characters, the ending, just everything around the movie, or Netflix thriller, or whatever. Interesting. The majority of them films I named off, except the classics that I listed. You know?
It's driving the #1 most dependable mass market brand 3 years in a row by J.D. Power.
I'll give this film a decent rating of 10 out of 10. Based off the story, cinematography, the acting, the story, the look of the film, all that good stuff. The chemistry between Donald Sutherland's character and the teen actor from The Black Phone. Dylan, I believe his name is. But yeah. Definitely more intriguing than Desperation and Halloween 5 and stuff of that type of genre and niche. We'll give it that. Like a mid-card women's title, and it's allowing very much show and show us what they can do. Drew McIntyre destroyed J.D. McDonough in a handful of minutes in a match that you knew wasn't going to go too long when Dom interfered, and it did not lead to Raw rolling on. The match just continued with no ad break, and Drew won
good stuff. Wade Barrett introduced DIY and they were attacked by
When you guys can, my KJMoids, go watch Mr. Harrigan's Phone. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. It is great film, great Netflix series. Check it out anyway. I'm gonna end this live. Love you guys. Peace.